can you explain what EFT tapping is?
The easiest way to explain it is say that it is very similar to acupuncture. The main difference, obviously, being that you're not using needles, but you're using the percussion of tapping on your pressure points.
Amy Vincze, discussing about ETF,
or emotional freedom technique tapping,
a therapeutic practice that combines elements of
acupuncture, cognitive therapy, and somatic healing.
Now, what's happening on a scientific level is that when we get stressed or are in pain of any kind, the stress center in our brain is getting triggered. It's getting triggered because it wants to keep us safe. And oftentimes we don't even know that we've been triggered. That's how anxiety happens. We don't know what has triggered the anxiety, but that's what it is. Our has been triggered, releases immense amounts of cortisol into our body, that stress hormone that's supposed to help save us in a really life-threatening situation. But it doesn't.
Welcome to It's Your Choice podcast. Today on the show, I'm speaking with Amy Vincze. Amy, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Amy, can you explain what EFT tapping is and how it works from both the emotional and scientific perspectives?
Oh, I'd be happy to. The easiest way to explain it is to say that it is very similar to acupuncture. Acupuncture utilizes the 14 energy meridians found in Chinese medicine, as does tapping. The main difference, obviously, being that you're not using needles, but you're using the percussion of tapping on your pressure points to help achieve health in your body. The Chinese medicine way of looking at health means that when you are in a state of pain or fear of some kind, there is some sort of blockage in your energy system. And either the needles of acupuncture or the tapping on your energy meridians will help to kind of break apart those blockages and help your energy to flow again. And making it so that your body heals itself. Mm. In general, we are made to heal ourselves.
Yes,
it's only when we get in our own ways that we don't have healing happen for us. But tapping is also kind of a triple threat. So it has that energy medicine aspect to it. It also incorporates cognitive therapy aspects because you are talking about whatever it is you want to release while you are tapping on the different points on your body. And then it also has a somatic element because while you're tapping on your body, you can't help but bring your energy into the present moment as opposed to it being worried about the past or worried about the future. You are tapping on your body, really grounding yourself in your body because you're feeling that tapping and hopefully feeling the emotions you're trying to release. And so it really allows you to heal on a very fast pace, feel it here at a very fast pace, and do it very effectively because of those three different aspects. So what it looks like in a session is that we discuss whatever it is you want to release, and then we start just tapping through the points and talking about whatever it is you want to release. You are giving a voice to all of the emotions that have been stored up in your body and not experienced and not felt. And so they don't get released when we don't feel them, when we deny them, when we repress them, they don't get released. And so they kind of build up in our system. And so we take a rating 0 to 10, like what is your fear about this on 0 to 10, with 10 being extreme or 0 being nothing. And then we go through round after round and the number just keeps going down steadily, typically. And we get you down to a 0. And when that happens, then that particular thing is neutralized in your system. Now, what's happening on a scientific level is that when we get stressed or are in pain of any kind, our amygdala, the stress center in our brain, is getting triggered. It's getting triggered because it wants to keep us safe. That is just our part of the body that just wants us to be safe so badly. And oftentimes we don't even know that we've been triggered. That's how anxiety happens. We don't know what has triggered the anxiety, but that's what it is. Our amygdala has been triggered. Our the amygdala releases immense amounts of cortisol into our body, that stress hormone that's supposed to help save us in a really life-threatening situation. But it doesn't do anything other than make us feel anxious, right? We're not in a situation anymore where we have to flee from a saber-toothed tiger. We just got a phone call, and all of a sudden we are in a state of fight or flight, and we don't even recognize it. We just feel anxious. So what tapping does is it starts to de-escalate that triggering sensation in our amygdala. And it will actually reduce cortisol in our bodies 43% faster than if you did nothing alone. So on a very real level, it is removing the stress from our bodies at a much faster pace than if we did nothing. Now, when you incorporate kind of the talking aspect along with the tapping, you are also telling your amygdala to feel safe and calm about whatever it is you're talking about. So, for example, say it's a fear or a phobia of flying in an airplane. You are reducing first of all, we try to trigger the person. We try to get them to the highest escalated state that they can be in. And then we slowly bring that down with the tapping. And by the end of it, conceivably, there is no more fear. And I've had that happen with numerous clients. Something like fears and phobias are actually pretty easy to release. But that's how it works on a lot of different levels.
And on average, how many sessions does it take for somebody to release that? And then I guess, are there, I'll call them flare-up moments of what they've released? So if we go with phobia, just because we've started with that one. So like kind of how many sessions would I have to take to release that phobia? And is it something that would still need future ones because that phobia or that trigger of it may kind of seep back in because it might still be somewhere hidden in that memory of the brain?
Right. It actually depends on whether or not you have an experience that created that phobia. So if somebody comes to me and they say, I've never really had a problem flying on an airplane. I just feel really scared the majority of the time. That is really easy to release. That can go in 1 to 2 sessions tops. If the person has had a significant experience, either being in any trapped situation or having a significant experience where their fear was really triggered on an airplane, then that has to be released first before we can focus on the phobia itself, but just focusing on the traumatic experience first and releasing every single aspect of that. And then it can be released. So that might take a little bit longer.
Right.
And then I would say, I do want to explain that there are 2 different types of traumas because they are dealt with differently. So there's the big T trauma, something like a car crash or something really scary on an airplane or a physical or a sexual assault or even a big health crisis will create a big T trauma. And then there's little T traumas, which are harder to recognize. And most people will actually dismiss them as traumas because they don't believe that they were as important or even warrant the word trauma. And it could be something like an angry parent that caused you to always feel like you're walking on eggshells, like you didn't really know what was going to cause a flare up and what wasn't, but you were in a constant state of fear about that. It could have been like significant bullying, either from a sibling or other kids in school. Those are little T traumas that if they happen a lot over a period of time, it can create a big situation that needs to be released. Those types of traumas, those really complex traumas that create a lot of fears and a lot of limiting beliefs as a result, are much harder to release, and they're even harder for people to acknowledge as something that they really need to work through. They just often view it as a character defect more than the result of trauma.
Pardon the interruption. If you're liking the show so far, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. It really means a lot to me. It helps grow the show and the channel and to the show.
Which is to their detriment, because then they blame themselves for it in general. But those types of complex traumas are much more difficult to release because they've most likely gone for decades looking through the lens of that trauma and often finding evidence to support the truth of it in their minds. And so it's a lot harder to dislodge. So something like an assault, a big T trauma, you would think would be really, really hard to release from somebody's system. And it's not, because it's usually a one-off event.
Right.
And you don't create often really huge limiting beliefs about one event. You know, your mind can dismiss it. Your mind can de-escalate it a lot faster, and then be able to release it without holding on to the fear around it.
Right, because it's not something that happened daily or weekly.
Exactly.
And so it's ingrained into the mind, the body, the energy of the body of that, that trauma that has, even though it may have seemed small, but happening over and over and over and over again.
Yes, exactly. And those types of traumas in particular will heal more in layers than they will be released in general. For example, like if you have a fear of not being enough, and I'm going to talk from my own experience because I had that, and I tapped like crazy about it for, when I say like crazy, what I mean is like I probably tapped for a total of about 4 hours over a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Maybe 7 years ago, when I finally uncovered what the root cause of some of my issues was. So I tapped for like 4 or 5 hours, and I experienced a really huge kind of awakening.
Okay.
And a newfound confidence in myself. And that's when I was able to start my business and actually go out there and be seen and start working with clients. But then, I rose to the level of my own healing, and then I wanted to go further again. And then I was bumping up against that same old belief because I expanded into the space that I had healed. I had expanded into that. And then it was now limiting me again. And I needed to continue to do more work and to heal at another level in order to do stuff like build the app and bring it to people like you and your listeners in a much more visible way. So there's going to constantly be healing especially on those small T trauma types of issues, because they're really deeply ingrained, and they take a lot more
right. And as we're trying new things and doing new things, they'll kind of sneak back in. So if we're focusing on one thing and great, we're through it, we're doing great, and now I want to try something new, try something different, grow even more, and that's when it kind of sneaks back in, and it's like, no, you're at your limit now. You can't possibly do that. Look at what you've done already. Like, you're good where you're at.
That's enough. Yeah. Don't want to get too big for your britches. Whatever the message is that you tell yourself, that is trauma talking. It might not feel like it or sound like it, but trauma, little T trauma especially, hides in plain sight. It might not be like a horrible addiction or, a rage-filled person. It's like procrastination is absolutely a trauma-informed behavior. So are things like an irrational response to criticism, or even a shying away from the spotlight when you're really good at something. Like, those are all signs of little T trauma that hasn't been healed, that hasn't been acknowledged or honored. And so it continues to kind of thrive. And for so long, I just always saw those things as character defects. And then when I realized it was because of these certain things that happened when I was a kid, and I was like, oh my God, the massive light bulbs went on. And then I could really go in and lean into some of the really hard stuff because I knew what would be on the other side of it. And that would be a life free of all of these fears.
Right. It's interesting because just I'll say 2 weeks ago, a week or two ago, I was with some friends and we were talking about a number of things, and trauma was one of them, and different things. And I was like, I haven't really, like, as a kid, I didn't have any trauma in my life. Like, it was all good. And they looked at me like, what are you talking about? I said, well, like, yeah, okay. My dad died when I was in kindergarten. He drove us to school one day and on the way home got into an accident and passed away. And I was forgotten at school, but like, I got over it. And I'm like, that's life. Like, it happens. And they're like, that's considered a trauma. And I said, I mean,
Absolutely.
not everybody experiences, but it's just my story, part of what happened to me. And I was just like, kind of clueless to the thought that would be considered a trauma in life to a child.
Absolutely. Can you, like, if you looked at you said you were in kindergarten?
I was in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you looked at any kindergartner and their whole world and their support system and their protectors and their biggest cheerleaders and the person that loves them the most, if that person was absolutely suddenly and totally unexpectedly taken away, that is a severe trauma. That is a severe trauma. And that will pull the rug out from under you and make you feel like the world is not safe in a way that a lot of things won't.
Interesting.
That will change your whole outlook on life. And you might not see it in big ways, but you might see it in little ways. Different decisions that you would have made if your dad was still here.
Mm-hmm.
Different ways that you would respond to things, different things that you would go for.
Life would be completely different.
Life would be completely different if he was still here. Maybe it caused some financial concerns. If your mom was having to suddenly raise kids on her own too, that is a trauma. That is a trauma. Financial trauma is a big thing because that's survival, right? Being able to pay for where you live and what you eat and all of those things. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess it was because too, at a point though, I've talked to people, I'm like, I don't really remember a lot about my childhood. Like just little bits and stuff, but not really a whole lot. Like when people think, oh, and they look back and they tell all kinds of stories, I'm thinking, like a handful of things maybe until my teenage years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like I got a little work to do.
There just might be a part of you that's protecting you because it was really probably more scary than you allow yourself to feel.
Maybe.
Or that part of your brain is trying to protect you from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too that we have to think, and I wasn't informed of this until probably about a decade or so, because I always find that, I would always say, so I've got a sister and two brothers, so there's four of us, and we're all very different. And for a long time, I used to think, how can we be so different, right? We're the same parents, same house, same family, same everything, but we're all very different. And I was at a conference or a seminar or something one time, and somehow the speaker got talking on this topic, and I was like, yeah, like I'm really interested about this. And he was saying, because even though the household's the same, the parents are same, everything was really different because our ages are different when things happen. So even if it was, if parents fought a lot, if you're at different ages, your response to it, how it affects you is different. And also how we're treated is slightly different because first child, oh my gosh, like nobody knows what they're doing with the first child and they're trying to figure it out. By the time they hit the third, the fourth, It's fine. That kid will be no problem. We've been through
Right.
this a few times. And
Right.
so I found that to be very interesting with those that make us different. And then so also um, all of those circumstances that happen in the home, outside the home, the school, the friends, the everything also changes who we are and how we deal with things. Pardon the interruption. If you're enjoying this episode and you're someone who values performance, clarity, and personal growth, then you're going to love my Mind Matters weekly newsletter. Every week, I send out a quick, powerful piece designed to help high achievers like you master your mindset, upgrade your habits, and lead with more clarity and fulfillment. It's not fluff, it's science backed, actionable, and easy to digest. It as your weekly reset button to realign with the leader you're becoming. So if you want to go deeper than what we've covered here on the show, then head over to www.sallypederson.com. That's me, and subscribe. Your next breakthrough just might be one email away. Now back to the show.
Yeah. Yeah. Where you were developmentally compared to your siblings when your father passed away would have changed who you all are in very different ways, right?
Mm.
I mean, an older kid would have been able to look at it through a different lens than you would. And so that makes total sense to me.
Yeah. So it was my sister was 10, my brother was 8, I was 6, my brother was 4. So even though 2 years to a kid it's a big difference when we're growing up.
Developmentally, absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's a big one.
Yeah. And so you've yourself, as you've mentioned that you've done the tapping for yourself to help yourself. You've been doing it for a number of years now. Is there kind of those unsolved hidden things, almost like what we were just talking about with me, that are kind of really common that people aren't aware of? Because we've talked a little about those little T's that build over time. Are there like 3, 4, 5 kind of events that have happened to people that really are considered traumas that people would just completely downplay or say, no way, that's not trauma at all?
Absolutely. And it could be something as simple as being ignored or being, I would say, like being criticized to the point of feeling like that you always have to be perfect or something along those lines. It really is things that you wouldn't think about. But what it does is it creates what I call foundational fears, which are present in every single person across the board that has experienced trauma. So even if it's something as simple as being ignored, what that does is it creates, over time, it can create a belief that I'm not worthy or deserving of attention or love. Or if your dad left or something like that, it could be fear of abandonment, whether it was his choice or not. Mm-hmm. Fear of losing somebody that you love that much. So these foundational fears are created as a result of all trauma across the board and can be found in anything, underneath anything. It's underneath procrastination. It's underneath addiction. It's underneath, I don't know, having a guarded heart and not being able to be in a really loving relationship. Any of those things, there is some kind of a foundational fear that if you go deeper and deeper and deeper, the foundational fear is always underneath all of those things. So, I mean, even if your parents were struggling to pay bills and so they had to work 2 to 3 jobs and you felt ignored or you felt like you weren't as important to them as you wanted to be, it could create these foundational fears. And one of which is, fear of being abandoned or rejected. There's a fear of not being good enough or not being worthy or deserving of love. There's fear of financial insecurity. That is a huge one. There's also fear of your body, because your body is often a place where it is the place where we hold all of these unresolved emotions. So like people with anxiety, their energy is up in their head, like with swirling thoughts constantly, because to bring their energy down into their body is so uncomfortable. To be in the place that houses all of those unresolved emotions, all of those unresolved traumas, just doesn't feel good. But
Right.
that would be the source of their healing, is to lean into the source of the fears.
Right.
So, I kind of got off on a track there.
That's okay.
But there
No, it
is
makes
that
sense.
common element of the foundational fears that are underneath every single behavior that is caused by trauma.
So it would be very fair to say every person on earth has had some form of trauma. Small t's, big t's, everything in between. Some obviously more than others, but every person has had some form of trauma, whether it was as a child, teenager, even as an adult, like wherever it is, nobody is trauma free.
I believe that. I absolutely believe that. And I believe that it's totally fair to say. I agree on some level, because everybody.
Because a lot of it, though, some of it, it's like it's our own feeling and it's our own interpretation. So it's not that it is a necessarily like a factual, provable thing. Because if I'm feeling neglected or I'm feeling ignored, I'm feeling hurt, like that's my feeling. That doesn't mean that it actually was that way. Maybe I was getting attention, just not the type I wanted, enough of it, whatever it may be. It's my interpretation, which it's not right or wrong. It's just how I felt.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's the way we look at it. And somebody might view a certain situation and feel grateful for it, knowing that they've learned a lot from the experience. And somebody else might decide, oh my God, I'm a failure. How could I have made that huge of a mistake? I can never risk myself doing something like that again. So I'm just going to stop moving forward. Those could be the exact same situation in two totally different perspectives. And unless you release and honor and acknowledge the feelings that around it enough, they will stay and they will grow. And so that's why tapping is so great, because you can release all of those things, all of the legs that are holding up the tabletop that say that you are a failure. You can release all of those legs one by one until it collapses. You can release all of those, like if you're like trying to open a business, for example, and you're trying to be successful in some way, and you've got massive procrastination happening. It's like trying to drive down a freeway when it is full of cars, the bumper to bumper traffic. You cannot move forward in the way that you want to move forward. And tapping is like taking each and every car out of the way until you have a totally clear freeway and you can move forward at whatever speed you want.
Right. So is it possible then if somebody doesn't use tapping or other ways of dealing with their trauma, can these traumas turn into health issues, like physical health issues?
I absolutely believe that 100%. Because we are physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual beings. You cannot separate one from the other. So if you have a happy thought, for example, you might be releasing dopamine into your system right now. But if you have consistent fear-based thoughts or stress in your life, that it's constantly releasing cortisol in your system, those hormones will build up if they are not released properly through expression of emotion. they will store up in our bodies and create some kind of physical manifestation at some point in your life. There is no way to avoid it unless you actually release it from your body. And I'll give you a great example that happened to me I think from my 20s on, like from when I was in college. I had really severe lower back pain to the point where I would throw my back out a couple times a year, and I would be in so much pain I'd have to crawl on the floor to go to the bathroom. It was so bad. It was so bad. And when I finally understood what the root cause of it is, which has to do with my emotions around money and family money growing up, and lots of fear and vulnerability around that. And when I tapped through those things for probably an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, about how vulnerable I felt financially, and having like the idea of having to count on my husband to help me financially, and just how scary it felt to be vulnerable in that way. I haven't had any back pain since that day of tapping for 2 hours after 25 years of having really significant lower back pain. So I fully believe that there is, if you're not healing really quickly from something, there is an emotional aspect to it that needs to be released, and get that out of the equation so that your body can do its job and actually help you heal from something.
Well, sounds like I have something else to heal, because I've had chronic back pain for probably getting close to 2 decades now.
Okay.
And I still push through it. I still do everything. It bothers me, but I'm just like, I've quote tried a lot of things: chiropractor, acupuncture, and then part of it was just like, it's not working. But I exercise, I work out, I do all those things, and I just thought, well, maybe it's just something I'm just going to have to kind of live with. But maybe it's something I need to try some tapping to see what's going on.
But at the very least, like, it just won't hurt. It
right,
won't
exactly.
hurt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It won't harm anything to actually lean in and try and see if there is an emotional aspect there that does need to be released. Is it lower back pain?
Lower back, yeah. And I just thought, because I sit a lot for work now, and before I was teaching more, so I was standing more. So I just thought, it's because I'm sitting and not stretching out the muscles enough, and so that's why it's always kind of tight. But one part of me is like, something's more, but. Yeah.
And the fact that you work out and you do stretch has probably made it easier for you, but I bet that there's an emotional aspect to it that does need to be released. Oh, I'd be so excited to work on this with you. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, we probably could. Yeah.
It's exciting.
I have a question. Like, are there times that certain emotional aspects then show up in specific parts of the body? Like, say for you said the money was the lower back. Is that a common thing, or is it everybody's a little different where it shows up? Or are there common, this will be the lower back, this will be shoulder, this will be another place that people are feeling things?
So I don't know how woo-woo this is going to be for your listeners, but I have really dove into using the chakras as a map to really understand what people's physical issues are and how it relates to their emotions. So the second chakra, for example, is where lower back pain would be centered, and that also has to do with like our reproductive organs, and that is our relationship center. That is our area where we always have to have a balance in each chakra between power and vulnerability. That's when we are in a state of real health. But in that relationship center, it's the relationship with people, but it's also our relationship with money. It's also our relationship with creativity, our relationship with sexuality. It's all of those things, and being able to have that balance between power and vulnerability creates a state of health in that particular chakra. But in order to really address a second chakra issue, or even a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, you have to start at the bottom, because the root chakra is like the foundation of any skyscraper. If you build a foundation on sand, it's not going to be, or on any kind of shaky surface, it's not going to be as stable as it could be as if you like create that strong foundation, get rid of all of the first chakra issues first. And then it will most likely clear a lot of the second chakra issues.
Right.
But there might be some residue. So then you go in and you address those things as well. So you always have to start at the base and work your way up. Like, for example, and the lower three chakras are where everybody has all of their issues for the most part. The first chakra is where all of our fears are located. And that's where we all need to lean into all of those fears. So those are the foundational fears that I talked about: fear of rejection, abandonment, fear of our bodies, and that sort of thing. Second chakra, we have to work through guilt associated with all of those relationships. And then the third chakra is all about shame, working through the shame of whatever it is, the shame of not being good enough or something along those lines. Once those three chakras, you achieve balance in those, the rest of them kind of figure themselves out. When you don't have a fear of failure anymore, it's a lot easier to speak your mind. And when you don't have a fear of judgment and criticism, it's a lot easier to move forward in your business when you're not worried about people judging. You know what I mean? Like, so that first chakra will take care of a lot of the other issues that you might be experiencing.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very fascinating. Well, Amy, if somebody wanted to work with you to find out some more information, where are the best places for them to find you?
Well, the best way is to go to the app at this point. I'm not taking on any individual clients at the moment. I'm full with that, but they can go to my website. They can go to soarwithtapping.com/podcast-special. And there they will find a code that they can put into the app and get 50% off of their first annual subscription. There are a lot of there's I think 12 different categories in the app currently. That they own over 160 different tapping scripts for every single situation, including physical issues that you can think of. And we're adding more all of the time. And there's also videos for how to work through things like bigger issues like anxiety and depression. If somebody's depressed and they go to the app, they don't know where to start. Well, there's a video that tells you where to start and how to work through these things so you can help get yourself out of those states. So yeah, that's the best place to go.
Perfect. And I will make sure to have that link in the show notes to make it easy for everybody to just click on the link and they can go directly to the app.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you, Amy, for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I know everybody got a lot of valuable information.
I hope so. I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you, Sally.